All right, so welcome back. We haven't done this in a little while because I was on vacation earlier this month and I had my master class at the end of June. So it's been a while since we've just had, a regular old Think Differently. I'm happy to see you all. Today we're talking about how to reach your money goals faster. And I would be curious for those of you who are live, I would love to know why you signed up for today's topic, what you're hoping to get out of it, what questions you have in general, what topics you're hoping I'm going to cover. Because I already said before I hit record that this will probably be a part two. There will probably be a part two today. Or what's going on if you feel comfortable in your business or life that made you feel like, okay, this is the topic for me this week. So I would love to know. And as I said before, I may be able to customize this to what you guys are experiencing. So feel free to share if you feel comfortable. Also, if you're live, you have an opportunity to win a free coaching session, a free mini coaching session. I usually do the drawings at the end of every month. Full disclosure, I'm behind. I just completely forgot last month. So there will be a drawing. So if you've entered before, let me say this differently. If you've entered before, your name will stay in the hat. Okay, so if you've entered before, you might actually win now because I haven't drawn the June ones. And then at the end of this month, I will draw again for July. So I draw one every month. So if you would like to enter yourself to win a free mini coaching session, just all you have to do is say enter me in the chat. And then my team and I will do the math and make sure you're entered the right number of times. Okay. Okay. All right. I think I'm just going to jump on in. So we're talking today about reaching your money goals faster. And I'm just going to quickly say what I put in the email so that, especially for those of you watching the replay, so that you know like what you're here for and what you're going to get. I very much value your time and I want you to know what we're talking about today. So a couple of things. Most of what we're talking about today, or a lot of what we're talking about today, is quite focused on mindset, but I'm going to kick it off with a little bit more sort of practical side of things. Let me let this one more person in here. So we'll kick it off with a little more practical, and then we'll dive into, and then we'll kind of like transition our way into mindset. So a couple things that I said that we're going to talk about. One is the hill that I'll die on when it comes to practical strategies that works for every single business. Like it doesn't matter what you do. I have very few things that I'm such a like one-on-one coach and I customize everything with my clients. And I'm always like, well, this person, this is what they need to do. And this person, this is what they need to do. There is no one size fits all in my world, but there are a few things that like, I really will be like, everybody needs this. And this is one of them. So practical strategy in terms of how you can reach your financial goals faster. It's super simple, but it's really hard to stick to. So we're going to talk about that one first. The other thing we're going to talk about today is how I coach my clients around setting money goals. Well, I could do a whole like 14-hour process on setting goals. So we will just keep it to a couple of little things. But I think these are the things that people tell me are the most helpful. And also probably things that other coaches aren't going to tell you because other coaches do it differently. This is just how I do it. So in case that's helpful, the blind spot that I see that slows down people's revenues and how to spot it in your business so that you can sort of shift it. And again, all of these things are to help you speed up your results and make more money, not without waiting for the 12 more months. Like we can just do that now. And then finally, I don't know if we're going to get to this one today, but the last piece is why I don't do money mindset work with my clients. I don't really call that, just don't feel like that's what I do. And why I don't, and then what I do instead, that helps my clients to shift long-held patterns that have been holding them back so they can make more money. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Let me just quickly check the chat, and then I'm going to kick off with this practical hill I'll die on because that's just feels like that needs to be said first. Great, awesome, Heidi, thank you. Okay, lots of enter me's. Okay, sweet. Okay. So the hill that I'll die on, and if you've been in my world for any amount of time, you're probably going to eye roll me because you've heard this before, but it bears repeating, and it honestly bears repeating. I think my coach said something to me along this line again for like the 4,000th time, sometime in the last 6 months. So it's just a thing that I don't think any of us can hear too much. And that is focusing on one thing at a time. Please don't kill me. Nobody likes to hear that. My creatives don't like to hear that. I'm a creative. My multi-passionates don't like to hear that. I'm a multi-passionate. Um, I love to wake up in the morning, get inspired, and go like dive into this cool idea I have for the day. But like that is not what my business needs from me. And also, I can still execute on said brilliant idea if and when it makes sense. And so we can have both. And I've done lives on that, so I'm not gonna like um, belabor the point. Side note, I'm working really hard on changing that phrase. I often say like beat a dead horse or hit you over the head with it. Like, those are very violent things that I don't like. It's a terrible, like we have so many, throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have so many like terrible phrases. So my new one is belabor the point. If you have better ones, please share with me because it's been hard for me. I'm working on it. Anyway, when we focus on one thing at a time, just super, super simple, practical. And this doesn't mean that I don't mean this in like such a super rigid, tiny micro way that like you're only serving clients or creating new clients in your marketing. Yes, please always be marketing and always be serving your clients. I don't mean it like, don't take me too far with this, focusing on one thing at a time. But when we're talking, what I specifically mean about it is having a top priority, having a focal point. That can be as simple as I'm selling one offer before I'm getting it to X% of traction or X dollars or X amount of my time where I am full with that offer before I add another one because it's just easier to sell one thing at a time. It's easier to get to be known for one thing. It's hard enough, I think, right now to stand on online and for people to know what you do and know what and get a sense of what you're known for. We need multiple touch points, way more touch points now than we used to. So that one's a really long one. I could go on, and I won't. It means focusing on one thing when you're promoting something. Like, don't promote four things in the same week. Please just do one at a time. That helps you get there faster. Focusing on one strategy at a time. And it doesn't mean that you can't execute on multiple strategies or multiple platforms. Or, for example, like I've always done networking and social media, and I've sort of over the years sort of flipped the percentage of my focus of each of those. But knowing on any given week, hey, if I all of a sudden am sick for 3 days, what's going to be off? I just know that like either networking or social media, depending on the year, is going to be kind of off the table that month, that week, so that I can focus on the top priority, right? Knowing what your strategy is and not trying to go after. I had a conversation with a client today after like both speaking and networking and social media all at once when you're just starting out, right? One thing at a time. And if you're going to be doing multiple things at a time, or if you've been doing multiple things at a time, you don't need to necessarily change that, but still having your top priority at any given point that you're very clear on, so that you're focused first on making traction there, because it's just hard to make traction in multiple places at once, right? It just is. If I'm trying to make breakfast and dessert at the same time, like unless I'm like a great baker where I'm like doing the prep and then it's in the oven and I don't have to worry about it, like it's just really hard to make progress on two things at once. It's just it. Then you're making progress on two things where you could be making progress on one, right? And then back to our topic at hand. Same with how you manage your money or you accomplish your money goals. I just accomplished a couple of money goals, two pretty big money goals, which I might share next week or I'll be sharing in a future live. In terms of just how I manage my money and not the money that I'm bringing in, but specifically like what I'm doing with my money and my investments and paying debt and all that stuff. And I think that is such a great example. And like I said, I'll share myself as a case study soon. But I think that's such a great example of also where the focus is important. We are always wanting to pay down debt. We're always wanting to, buy things that we love, and we're always wanting to invest and grow our wealth, right? Like we kind of like have all three pieces of the spectrum, but like having a priority on any given month, or for me, I had a priority for the whole first 6 months of the year where I actually thought it was going to take me longer, but because I was so freaking focused on it, I've just accomplished my goals in 6 months. And that feels so good. And it feels great to like be like focused and then to be like, cool, I did that. that can just kind of sit over here. Now I'm going over here. Um, that's how we achieve our money goals faster. So just to remember that your priorities really do matter. Having a focal point really does matter. And I think I've talked about this so many times, so I'm going to wrap this point up in a minute. Let me know if you have questions, though. But I think there's also one more piece to that, and that is the mindset around that. I think it can sometimes be really hard or confronting or feel rigid or feel constricting or feel like we are putting weird rules on ourselves to like commit to something, commit to one thing. And the thing I always like to say for myself and to my clients is like, you always have a choice. I'm still the person in charge of myself. I'm still the person in charge of this business. I'm still the one, I can always change my mind. And when we have a priority or something that we want to go after, it by definition requires that we put something else on the back burner or on the second level priority or on the third level priority, or I always say like on the shelf because I have like a notebook in that closet behind me full of ideas and things and stuff I want to do. And some I may never do, and that's fine. But I at least I yes myself, like, yes, you can do this one day, put it in a notebook. And then I can get some of that, like the hit that I was looking for with that. And then it's not on the priority list for today because I already made my to-do list and it goes back in that closet and I can pick it up when I have free time. Or when I'm like, ooh, I don't like what I'm working on. Maybe I want to reevaluate. Let me pull out my ideas, right? It's just, it has its place. But if I want my business to get where I want it to get, that means I have to say no to some things. Even some things, and especially some things that are going to make me money or things that are going to be fun or a collaboration. I said no to like 4 or 5 really awesome collabs last year because it just wasn't going to get me the piece that the focal point the priority that I had for my business last year. We just have to trust that that's going to be okay. And I'm not sad about it. Like it was hard in the moment to be like, ugh, that would be really fun. And also I didn't have the space. And that's okay. But when we do that, there's a commitment to yourself in there too. And that helps you get there faster. I promise. And that's one of the things that I've kind of learned kicking and screaming. I always knew it on a practical level. As a former consultant, we used to always help clients to make these decisions of like, what is the priority and how are we going to prioritize that and how are we going to go after that? And so I've always known that, but the creative part of me really does not like that. But I will say over the years, it's gotten much, much, much easier when I can see like, oh, I'm so glad I said no to those things, my idea, my collaboration, my whatever, because this got me where I wanted to go faster. Okay, questions. I know many of you who have been in my world, you've heard me say this, but it feels important if we're talking about how to make money faster, right? Or we're saying, I want to reach my money goals faster. It feels really important to say like, what's the very practical structure by which you're going about making money in your business? There's probably something in there that's slowing you down. So that's the first thing. Let's just put some stuff to the side. So if that's resonating with you, that's your homework. Okay, I'm just going to quickly check the chat and then we'll move on to number 2. I find that really challenging to just focus on one thing. There's so many things. Yes. And again, please don't take me too seriously. Like, please do your bookkeeping or have a bookkeeper or an accountant, right? Like, please also serve your clients and put out your content. Like, there's always multiple things on our list, micro, but macro, do you know what your priority is? Do you know what the focal point of your business is? And and also the other thing is sometimes if you're having a hard time making that decision, it will show up in you kind of executing all across the board. So what I invite you to do is kind of like come back, have a little bit of, I always say like quiet Laura time, quiet you time, strategic thinking CEO time, where you're like, what is the priority here and how are we going to get there? And what are the things we need to do to get there? And then therefore what needs to be shelved or become a second priority and those kinds of things. Like we really have to kind of go back to the basics or back to the beginning or back to high level thinking. And that's something that I help my clients do all day, every day. If that's something that you'd like help with, I'd love to support you with that too, because I think sometimes that ability or the symptom is I'm running around doing a bunch of things, but the source of the problem or the reason I'm doing that is because I haven't picked because I'm not sure where to focus. And so also to just give you credit for that. But knowing where to focus is like so nervous system calming, I personally find. And really get, again, what gets you there faster when you just sit down on Monday morning and you know what to work on. And you know that that's going to get you where you want to go. It might take you 5 minutes, it might take you 5 years, but it's going to get you there. I think that knowledge, that knowing is really, really important. Okay. No more, no more belaboring the point. I'm going to move on. So how I coach my clients to set money goals. I'm going to just share, like I said, this could be a very, very, very long talk. I'm just going to share a couple of things that I think I'm not hearing as many people talk about, and that I think has helped. I know it's helped me, and I know it's helped my clients to make more money. Are you guys seeing my video okay? It just kind of went wonky. It's all right. Just going to check the cords. Okay. Let me know. So the first thing is like the size of your goal. I find that most of the time, one of the things that can slow us down from making big money or making money faster or what, getting there faster is our goal size. Like, I want to make $4 million or I want to make $4, right? Our goal size is on one end of the extreme or the other. Most of the time, I will tell my clients either that their size, their money goal is too big or too small. So it's kind of a Goldilocks thing here. We want it to be like just right. So just a couple of things on how to let it be just right for you. Please take this and make this your own. I'm sorry, my nose is itching. Please take this and make this your own. Because what I often do with my clients is we will shift this based on what they're working on from the mindset perspective. So you do need to know yourself. And if something feels like, ooh, that's going to encourage me to just keep on going with a pattern that does not serve me, pull back and tweak it. Okay, so this is just a loose structure. If your money goal is too small, I find that it's usually based on what you'll kind of look at the results that you've gotten to this point. I'm just going to use launching a group program for an example because I think it's a simple example, but I'm just going to use this as an example. So let's say you have a group coaching program, and you're launching like the second or third or fourth or fifth iteration of it, and you're setting your goal for that launch. If your goal is too small, it's probably because you're starting with what you have done before, right? You're kind of looking at past results and you're kind of letting your past dictate your present and your future. And you're saying, this is what I can reasonably get. This is what like I'm allowed to want. This is what I think I can, accomplish based on what I've done before. So this is what I will do again. And that I find that my clients, even who just had a huge launch before, like if they broke through and made a big launch in their last launch, then when they're setting their next launch, it's kind of like, well, like 5K less than last time. Or like, let's just put last time's, goal as that. And not that we can't do that. And depending on the circumstances, right? If you're I don't know, working part-time because you're dealing with something in your life, then like, yes, we need to account for that. So please, of course. But most of the time when it's too small, we're kind of looking at it from that, like, am I allowed to have this? What I did before is probably all I can hope for, right? We're kind of in more of that space. When it's too big, and this is something where I think I'm different than what I've seen out there in terms of other coaches and online. It's not better or worse, but like I just am very comfortable and confirmed in my decision sort of with my approach. I think that sometimes we get excited about the belief of something being bigger, and we go so balls to the wall that it's really kind of not a fair number for us. And what happens when it's too big, here's why I don't like too big, even though half my job is to help clients think bigger. Why I don't like too big is, first off, it sets you up for disappointment in the sense that most of my clients, I literally have had this conversation with 2 clients just in the last week. most of my clients are high achievers, are willing to do the thing, have accomplished so many things, are thinking big, are doing big things, are really deeply impacting their clients every day. And they're not always giving themselves the credit for it. And one of the things that I'm working on with those clients is giving themselves credit, not just for, are you hitting the milestone right at the end, but like, what did you, every day, if you book a call, yes, we are going to celebrate the crap out of that. Did you get 4 people extra to open your email? Yes, we are celebrating the crap out of that. Like, all the tiny things along the way is actually how we get to the milestone and how we get to the money goals and how we get to all the things that we want. And so if you're a person that doesn't celebrate until you reach that, then setting a huge, massive, potentially unrealistic goal for where you are is just going to help you buy into that crappy pattern of thinking instead of helping you celebrate along the way. And so I don't like it. I don't like too big of a goal for that reason. The other reason I don't like it is sometimes I think that I need to find the right words to say this. I think there's a lot of, you know, there's a mindset in the online space, a mindset held by some people and promoted by some people in the online space around like, how do I want to say this? Because I do believe that if you believe it, it will happen. But I think sometimes we get too ungrounded and too floaty in that belief and manifesting place that we think that that's the only element at play. And we have practical, grounded, earth level things that and actions that we need to take to get ourselves there. And so I believe very much in both the belief and the action and the strategy. But I think when we make such a huge goal that, and I'm going to give you a silly example, right? Let's say you have your group program, you've decided you're going to cap it at 12 people, but you want to make like $4 million from that. Unless I have to do the math, but like, unless you're charging $1 million a person or like $500,000 a person, like you're not, it's just this not, right? And then you're going to use that as a reason to tell yourself you're not good enough. Right? You're going to use it as a reason to compare your launch against other people's in the online space, right? You're going to use it as a reason why the gods aren't smiling on you because you're not doing it right, because you weren't good enough, because, right? It just becomes the story as opposed to something that can be supportive. What I like about money goals is when we can use them to be supportive for ourselves, because the carrot and the stick does not, well, the stick works, but it's fear. The stick does not support us in growing a business, in having a growth mindset, in becoming better and more regulated people. It does not serve us, right? The punishment does not do that. The carrot is what gets us there. And so we want to set a goal that feels good. We want to set a goal that feels stretchy. We want to set a goal that's remotely realistic and not one that's just going to be a reason for ourselves to punish ourselves. Okay. So a couple of other things with goals. One, please do the practical math. Like I said, like if you are capping it at 12 people, then like that might be your goal, right? Like that might just be very simple and we move on. So please do the math there. Or do the math on some realistic scenarios so that you're not pie in the sky making up a number, so that the number you have is based in some sort of reality. That's the other thing that your brain needs. The other thing that I feel very strongly about, and this kind of gets to like, you could apply this to pricing too, is like when we price our offers too high for our comfort level, it jacks up our nervous system, and honestly, it makes it so much harder to sell. So I always say, like, we want our pricing to feel a little stretchy for us. Of course, we want it to be within the industry benchmarks and all of that stuff. But if you're aware that your pricing is too low and you need to raise it, I am not the kind of coach that says, unless your mindset is on board, I'm not the kind of coach that says, like, let's just double it and fuck it. Because most people's nervous systems can't handle that. Unless that's the client that's sitting in front of me and they're ready for that. And so I think it's really important to give yourself the push, give yourself the stretch, and also to not put yourself in a position where you're stretching it too far, because once your nervous system is jacked up, it's just really hard to sell. It's just really hard to sell. And also, I don't want you to live in that chaos in your business. Like, our businesses do not need to stress us the F out. I think running a business is not easy, but it does not need to be so hard, and we don't have to add chaos into that. So okay, so not the pie in the sky. And then what I really like is like, do the math, get yourself in the ballpark, right? Maybe you do start with, okay, what was my launch last time? Boom, great. How many people was that? Great. How much time has passed and how much has my audience grown? Great. What would feel, now that I have my ballpark number, what would feel really good? And then take it up a notch, not double it or triple it. And again, unless that's your mindset. And some people that is not hard for them. That is not, they have a risk tolerance or a nervous system that like are good with that. But I think it's really important to know who you are, know what serves you there, and make that number accordingly. So I often say, like, take that starting number. Oh, what would feel really good? And then maybe you plus it a little, right? We want it to feel a little stretchy. We want it to feel a little stretchy. We want it to feel like, holy crap. Ooh, could I do that? But then to look at the numbers and be like, I actually could do that. That feels big. That feels like, okay, but yeah, I could do that. Like some part of you feels like you could actually do that. That's when you're kind of getting there. Okay. And then my bonus tip, I personally like to have two goals. I like to have two goals. One that's sort of like that reality plus, and then one that's like bigger than that. And then that sort of solves the are we thinking bigger problem that a lot of other coaches would say, oh, just 10x it, oh, just double it, oh, blah, 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 right? But we're not, our nervous system has the slightly lower number that's also like reality plus, right? The stretchy that our nervous system can get on board with. And then we're not like committing ourselves to a number or a goal that is really just like too big sometimes for us to handle. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. And then my final piece is with money goals. I already started to say this, but I want to say it really, really, really want to emphasize. We're going to celebrate the shit out of every step along the way. All the tiny stuff. When somebody opens your email, when somebody clicks on your email, when somebody clicks on your offer and asks a question about your offer, when somebody books a call and they haven't purchased yet, when you have a sales call and you make them an offer, we're going to celebrate that. When they are thinking about whether they're going to take the offer, we're celebrating that. We're at that process. Every little tiny step along the way, we are celebrating. Not because we're blowing smoke up your ass, but because that's how we get there. And because if we want our brains to see those goals as reality, it's very hard for the brain to go 0 to like, I'm either not achieving, it's pass fail, right? It's like, I'm not achieving my goal. I am achieving my goal. Okay, now I'm allowed to be happy and celebrate myself. But so much of business is like not this moment, right? Like so much of all of 5% of business is in the process of getting there. And then once you get there, what's going to happen? You're going to celebrate the crap out of it. And then you're going to set a new goal, right? And you're going to go for the next thing. And so I think, and there's nothing wrong with that. I always want my clients to be thinking when they're thinking about money, when they're thinking about business results, like I am good with what I have and I also want more. Like we want to, but that's the mindset piece, right? I'm celebrating the crap out of this little tiny thing that somebody opened by email. And as I do that, my brain sees all of this as safe and realistic to get me to the point of the goal. And then it actually feels good when you get there. That's the other thing I find so often when we don't let ourselves be happy until we reach the goal or celebrate or be like, oh, I did it. It's like, no, you don't have to be like, I did it. I made my goal, but you can be like, sure looks like I'm going to hit it because I just did this thing and I just did this thing and this thing and that person opened and this happened, right? That the momentum is actually what helps you get there from a mindset perspective. And it's also the mindset when your mindset is excited about those little things and on that, then you're more likely to see the path to the next sale. You're more likely to take the action that you're supposed to take. When you're discouraged already because you didn't make $1 million with 12 people in your program, can you, like, I just kind of want to go take a nap, honestly. Like, that doesn't make me want to go do stuff. That makes me want to, like, well, that's not going to work anyway, right? And if we pass fail ourselves, right? If our goals are pass fail, that's not fun either. So, like, business is a game. We gotta gamify it. We gotta gamify it for the brain. We gotta celebrate the crap out of everything. Okay, questions on that one before I move on? I'm just gonna check the chat. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah. Okay. So the next one is, what's the blind spot that slows down revenue for so many people, and how to spot it in your business, or how to spot it in your mindset, in your brain, in your thoughts, so that you can shift it, and that alone will speed up progress. I think I'm just going to come out and say this one. I could, like, give you a little preface, but I think I'm just going to come out and say it. Are you approaching something with hope? I freaking love hope, by the way. But let's put it over here. Are you approaching it with hope, or are you approaching something with a decision? Can you see already the total difference between those two words? Right? Hope is, and I love hope. Again, it has its place, and I want you to always have hope in your business. But if we're talking about money goals, if we're talking about making plans for the business, if we're talking about going after what we want, if we're talking about becoming who we want to be in the process, right? And really achieving your dreams, hoping to do that is just not very strong. Does that make sense? Like, it's maybe, oh, like, if you have no hope whatsoever, then maybe we start with some hope, right? Then we're like stepping ourselves into some hope. But I had a client, we were at the end of the year. I remember this so well. At the end of last year, we were setting her goals for this year. And we looked at the numbers and blah, blah, blah. And we were like, okay, it's time for her to make her first 100K and to break through the 100K milestone. And also her business is, like, so set up for that. Like, it seems inevitable, and almost to the point where I was like, I want to encourage you to have a bigger goal than just breaking through the 100K, even though that's a huge milestone. Like, the stretchiness, I wanted her to really think about more like 150. And so we were doing all of that. We got into that, and okay. And she was like, yeah, that feels good. And that feels right. We were kind of landing on, like, what's the number, and how many clients would that be for her? And what would she need to do in each of her group programs and in her one-on-one to make that, like, what is realistically going to make that happen? And does that feel good to her? And then she said, yeah, that'd be so great. I really hope that happens. And then we spent the rest of the time on, why did she not just think that she could have it and decide that she was going to have it and fucking go after it, right? Like, there's such a time, and there's nothing wrong with, I really hope that happens, but that implies that the power is outside of you, right? That implies that, I think that pulls up, like, the good girl, good boy, good person conditioning of, like, well, if I'm good, then maybe I'll get what I want, right? The little kid in us that was taught that. What else do I want to say about hope? Or, like, if it's a fluke, or, like, if I'm lucky, or if, like, the market is, the economy is good, if the market's good, blah, 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 then, then maybe I'll get what I want. But I'm just gonna sit around and hope that happens, or I'm just gonna, like, assume that I don't have any control over that, right? That's where I kind of get mad at hope. That's where, maybe that's not to say, but hope isn't enough in that example. Okay. Here's the difference. A decision is, this is my year to cross the 100K mark to the point where I'm actually going to make my goal 150. Period. Or exclamation mark, right? This is a decision I've made. Yes, of course, realistically, I can't control everything in the world. And it is possible that I won't hit this goal, but the whole thing that we're talking about here is goals, right? But I'm going to do everything in my power, short of things that I'm not willing to do, like burning out, sacrificing my values, being unethical, whatever, right? I'm going to do everything in my power to make this happen. And I'm committed to that. And I'm committing that to myself, and I'm committing that to my business. And I've just decided this is mine, and I'm claiming it, and I'm going after it. And when I have a moment over the course of that year where things feel like they're not working, or I hit a problem, because inevitably you're going to, right? There's always something. I'm just willing to sit down and figure it out. I trust myself to make good decisions. I trust myself to hit this goal. I trust myself to run my business along the process, to progress along the line to making this money. And I'm going to reevaluate when I need to. And I trust myself to change course if I need to. And I trust myself to go after the things that I need to say yes to the things, right? To say yes to my priorities, and to say no to things that are not that. And I'm just decided that this is mine, and I'm going after it. Period. Exclamation mark, right? Very, very, very different than, I sure hope that happens. That'd be so great. I really hope, right? Again, hope has its place. I'm not knocking hope. I'm not knocking hope at all. We need some hope right now in this world. And hope is not like how we go after our business goals or making money faster, or whatever the thing is that you want. Okay, let me check my notes. Tell me how, I want to know if this is new for you, if you're like seeing this in yourself, or if you're like, oh, actually that I just realized, like, that's how I do this, is I make decisions and then I go do it, and that's why I achieve things. I would love to know what you guys think. And I'm just going to check my notes and see if there was something else I wanted to say on this. Okay, I do have one more thing. So one of the things that I said I would do is talk about how to spot it, and then to shift it to see results. There's a couple of things that I recommend, but the first thing is just the awareness piece, right? So if you find yourself really looking at a goal, this is like a good lens to put on and be like, okay, how can I decide that this is mine, instead of hope, right? What can I do? What is it? Just putting a sticky note on your computer? Is it like, what is it that you need to help you stay in that decider kind of mindset? That's one. The other is, when you have challenges along the way, let that also be a lens or a place where you can ask yourself a question. Is there a part of me that's only in hope right now and not deciding and going after it? There's just such a difference there. So it's a really good, like I said in the beginning, like if you're focusing on multiple priorities, like to just kind of hold on, let's put everything down, take it to your coach, do some self-coaching, bring it to your business bestie, have some quiet time, CEO time. Like, where can I redecide this? How can I make this a decision? What do I need? What's missing? What do I need so that I can make a decision? Instead of, oh, great question. I'll get to your question in a second. What do I need to make this a decision, instead of just sitting in hope? Just. And then that can be the other piece. You can ask yourself, like, why am I afraid of claiming this? Because there's usually some fear in there. Why am I afraid of claiming this? Why do I think I don't get to have it? And then the other side could be, why do I want this thing? Like, what specifically? Okay, you go back to my client. She wants 100K or 150K per year business. Why? Like, why? arbitrary numbers, back to the conversation of money goals, like just arbitrary numbers. Like it would feel good to say I made $1 million, so that's my goal. Like great, but like we need a little more something underneath that, right? Why? You can have $1 million in your business, but like why? Because if you don't have a why, you're not going to care enough to finish to follow through. You're just not. And maybe the why is because I need to be able to tell people that. That's not going to carry you very far. We need sustainability here, right? Why? Why? Well, I want this and I want that. Specifically, what do you want to buy? Specifically, what do you want to do with your money? Specifically, who are you going to donate your money to? Specifically, what are you going to do with it, right? And so getting down to why do I want this can also help you with shifting out of hope and into making that decision. And then I talked about why do you think you can't have it? Right? Like in talking about the thinking about the fear, self-coaching around that. These are questions that I would be talking through with my clients. The other flip side of that is like, why do I think I can have it? Like, right? Where we were like, realistically, this girl can get 100K per year to the point where we're going to make that goal 150, right? How can you really look at, oh, okay, yes, I hope. Yes, I'm worried I won't get there. Yes, there's a part of me that's afraid that I won't, or afraid that I don't have what it takes or whatever, and we can process that. But like another journaling prompt is just like, what evidence do I have that I can do it? Because most of the time we aren't tracking that evidence, right? We're tracking the evidence that our brain wants to track, which is why you can't have it. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat. Heidi, did you have a question? It does make sense about the energy of hope versus decision. Okay, super good. Good.
Yeah, I was just wondering. So I'm relatively new in the online space and then
Mhm.
just all the things. So I don't know if you have suggestions about prioritizing the things, right? And because it's the learning curves of the steps and all the things, and I don't know yet what's going to work. And I've been tuning into what lights me up as a
Mhm.
primary thing, right? Because I know
Mhm.
energetically that's more
Totally.
aligned and flowy. But do you have a suggestion around prioritizing?
Yeah, so not knowing your business, but I will tell you a couple of thoughts around that. One is I completely agree with you. What lights you up needs to be the driver for the business. So macro, right? So like big picture, like for me, I always share this like as a coach, a lot of coaches have group programs, and there's nothing wrong with group programs. So many of my clients have group programs. I've been a member of group programs. I've had group programs. But what I realized after executing a few of them is like every time we were finishing a group program, I was like, okay, so will you come over here? Because I want to have a one-on-one with you. Like it was just so clear to me how much more I loved the one-on-one. And also I'm just better at it and it helps my clients get better results. But I had to go through that process to realize like, I like group coaching. I freaking love one-on-one. And to your point, so I've built my business around that. So like macro big picture, we want to build things around your zone of genius, around the stuff that lights you up, around the stuff you want. Because if I'm going to be doing this for the next, I don't know, 15, 20 years, I don't know how long I'm going to work, but like if I want to keep doing this, I don't want to do stuff that I don't want to do. Like I just don't, right? Big picture. And so I want to spend as much time as I can on one-on-one calls with my clients. That's how I want to spend my time. So I've built the whole business around that. Micro, day to day, week to week. There's days where I don't have as many calls. There's days where I don't have any calls because I'm giving myself the space to put my marketing together or whatever. And I think that's where some of that priority conversation from earlier today is helpful. So like, yes, follow your bliss in the big picture and what you set up, the big things, and then let the rest of it support that. So my strategy has to support me being able to do one-on-one, right? And that's its goal. And so there's days where I don't want to do what I don't want to do, but I'm going to do it because it gets me what I want, which is the one-on-one. And so to the point of priority, that then it's like, well, if I know I want this many clients or I know I want this kind of client, then what do I need to do to get myself there? And there's always going to be 40 million things, but then within that, what is the easiest for you to execute on? For me, this is a lot easier for me to deliver this kind of content to you than to write a bunch of short pieces of content or to do some reels. I do all of the above, but this is where my focus is because one, it helps me get one-on-one clients because it helps you start to see like how I think about business and how I might coach you and like what I'm about. But it's also it's just easier for me. I'm better at this kind of delivery of content than something else. And so also honing in on some of those things makes it easier to prioritize, and to pick if you will. So I think, and then I'll say one more thing, which is just give yourself the space to experience, try something out. Like the only reason I know this is because I've done lives for a while and I was like, oh, I like this, right? I'm good at this. I wasn't good at it in the beginning, so I think just to experiment. Same with my group stuff. The only reason I could make the decision to go all in on one is because I had a few groups. I lived that. And then I was like, okay, that was great. I don't really want to do that again. And then I also have full permission to change my mind. Like, I can always run a
Yeah,
group again
thank
later
you.
if I
Yeah,
want
I
to.
think that makes sense.
Good.
I am definitely learning through experience, so I think it just takes time and trial and error. And
A
then
hundred
I like
percent.
the idea about I think I just need to maybe make lists of all the things, because there's so many
Yes.
things, and
Brain
then just
dump.
figure out. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Okay. Um, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna start this last piece. We've got a few more minutes. Let me actually pause for a second. Is there any piece that you would like me to go back to that we've already talked about today? Anything that you'd love more on or that you have questions on or um anything that gave you an insight also, I would love to know. Because this next piece is pretty big, so I can hold it or I can keep going. Just gonna give you guys a sec to say yay or nay. Okay, no thoughts. Okay. I will start this conversation. I will not finish it because I do want to give you guys your time back at the right time. So let me just start with why I don't do money mindset work. Actually, let me just sit here for how am I going to draw my line here? Okay. So I'm going to mostly talk about why I don't do money mindset work and sort of what that looks like instead. And then next week we'll talk about a little bit more of how to put that into practice. This is why I didn't decide yet on what next week's topic is because it's going to be part two. I might give it another title, but it's basically a part two. Sometimes procrastination serves. Okay. So the reason I don't do money mindset work, and I really just mean I do actually talk to my clients about money all the time. I talk about their mindset and I talk about their mindset about money. So let me just be really, really clear. But I think what I don't do is spend a lot of time talking about it from that perspective. And here's why. Let me actually back up. I have a background in lots of things that like the way that my worldview is and all of my like practical training in my career has all helped me to look at things from a holistic perspective and understanding how like this piece over here affects this piece, which affects this piece. And so we don't ever want to like look at one element of a business in a vacuum. We don't want to look at one element of a human in a vacuum, right? And that's just my worldview. That's how I work. I spent 18 years as a consultant in change management and HR, and a little bit of communications, helping businesses make big changes, and helping them decide what to change, what not to, what the impacts of that change might be. And then inevitably, when we couldn't predict that a change was going to happen, we would figure out what to do now that, oops, we did this and that affected this domino effect. Crap, what do we do about this, right? So I did all of that, big picture, sort of strategic thinking consulting for 18 years. And now I'm obviously a business coach, but I also have experience in psychology. I have a lot of coaching and like crisis counseling experience, a lot of mindset stuff. I am a former hypnotherapist. I've done a lot in the mindset, psychology, human behavior world. And the reason I say all of this is because money mindset is just the symptom. it's usually 9 times out of 10. Every night, yes, we have beliefs about money and there's things, and those are definitely like things to address. But what I find as a practitioner is that how we think about money is how we think about other things. Or better said, the source of your money mindset stuff is usually not about money at all. It just manifests as a part of money because it also manifests in your relationships and it manifests in how you let yourself have things that you want, or it manifests in the ways that you allow good things to come into your life, or let yourself receive things, or let yourself say, ooh, that's good, right? We talked about celebrating. Let yourself celebrate, right? Because the brain's wired for survival, not for thriving, right? And so the brain wants to tell you, like, it's not safe to celebrate those tiny little things that we talked about earlier because you might not get there. Or if you celebrate those tiny little things, you will miss the thing back there because, the tiger's behind you, right? That's what our brains want to tell us. And so much of this work is about making all the other pieces safe so that we can go do the thing that we need to do, which is make an offer to someone, put some content out, like, serve the client, have a difficult conversation with a team member, right? All of those things. Um, and so for me, the way that I see life and business, and it comes from a very practical and psychological background, is that money mindset. And I'm so grateful. And I don't mean to knock like the people talking about money mindset. Please keep talking about that. Please keep talking about that, because people didn't even know they had that problem until the money mindset people came into the coaching space. So I'm very, very grateful for that. It's just not the way that I approach my work, or what I call it. It's really just more not what I call it. I still am doing a lot of that work that the money mindset people are doing, but that's because I care so much more about what's the source of the problem, what's really going on. And that then affects so many more things than just money. And it's just, and so what are we here to do? Talk about reaching your money goals faster when we are only dealing with symptoms, right? And you guys all know, by the way, oftentimes people will come into your world, right? They'll hop on a sales call with you and they're like, here's my problem. And it's like, and I always do this because it's like high level. Here's my problem. Here's my symptom. Great. Your job is to help them figure out what's the source under that why and solve that source, not to be like, oh, let me float around with you with your symptom. And again, not to say that money, mindset isn't a piece, but it's usually not just about money. It's about how you think about yourself. It's about whether or not you're willing to make the offer. It's about um, visibility is a big one, I think, that's related to money. Like if we feel like visibility is unsafe, then we're not going to put ourselves out there, right? And so knowing this, how do I want to say this? I think all I want to say here with this piece, I'm trying so hard to hold the piece for next week because it's too big and it's too much, or it's just it's too many things. I think what's important here is that we understand that how we think about one thing is how we think about lots of things. Maybe not everything, but how we think about lots of things. And so the work I'm doing with my clients is, how are you thinking about yourself? How are you thinking about the world? How are you thinking about your capabilities? How are you thinking about what you're allowed to have, what you're allowed to let in, what goodness you get to have? Those are usually the kinds of things that affect our money mindset or affect how we think about money and how we approach business. Because money is the language of business, right? Money is the byproduct. Business has a money byproduct. But what's underneath that? Money is just the final result. And it's awesome and it's great. And I want you to have it. And if we're talking about mindset, it's usually not just about money. Money is a great example. And I love it when clients bring me money stuff because it's like, great, now I can like ask the right questions to get down to what's underneath that, to what we really need to work on instead. And then that will, of course, affect the money mindset, right? Okay. I'm going to hold the rest until next week and I will figure out what else is going to be in the part 2. I could keep going on. I hope this was helpful. I hope that throughout your business and your journey that you're always improving your relationship with money and the way that you think about it and the way that you approach the business so that you can accomplish your money goals. I think who we become in the process is just as important as the goals that we reach, the money goals that we reach. And also, I think when we do the mindset work and when we go back to the beginning, like when we focus on one thing at a time and we stay, committed to our strategy and our priorities, business just gets a whole lot easier. And that is where I find money comes in faster. It's like that's where some of the magic is, but it's also very practical. Is like when we are not so stressed out about the things, the money just comes in faster. And I really want you to hear that. And I one final thing I want you to see, I know that there's been so much, and I've been part of this, like there's been so much about what's going on in the online space and how sales cycles are longer and all the things are happening and like whatever. And I also want you to know that I'm seeing a huge shift in my business and in clients' businesses. I am seeing things happen faster. I am seeing a shift of coming out of that time frame. I really think it's important to say like people are still buying and people have been buying for the last 2 years. So please don't let any of the industry stuff tell you that you can't. I was on a call yesterday where someone said the coaching industry is falling apart. And I was like, I actually think we're here forever. Like that's not, I see no evidence of that. Maybe people are saying that, but I see no evidence of that. And so I just want to say like, please keep doing the thing. Please keep believing in yourself. Let me know if I can support you. Oh, and speaking of, I have at least, I think I have one coaching spot available still in August. I've got a couple people up for renewal and a couple of consults on my calendar for next week. So they may be gone. But if you're interested in working with me, whether that be in a single strategy session, in a 1 week intensive, or my personal favorite, my 6 month coaching program, please reach out. I'll just quickly put the link in the chat here so that you can book a call. Okay, and then I see one more question here. Let's see. Oops, why is it? Let me just grab this. Thanks, Laura. I love the part about focusing on why can't I have this? Good. I'm so glad I feel like that's a really good one, right? It's like, it's another way of pulling out, you're welcome, Heidi. I think that's another way of pulling out the evidence, right? It's like a sneaky way of getting to the evidence. I think sometimes we are like, what is the evidence that, that I'm doing well? It's like, sometimes that's a harder answer for the brain, but like, why can't I have this? Good. I'm glad. Let me know. Let me know when you journal. Let me know how it goes. All right, friends. I will see you next week. Thank you so much.